Or welcome to the Larry Elder Show. The number to call in to the ReliefFactor.com studio is 888-971-7243, 888-971-7243. I'm your special guest host, Carl Jackson, filling in for Larry Elder. What do we do when our institutions have gone awry? Our most valuable institutions have gone awry, when they seem to have become tainted. I don't want to use the word corrupted when I speak of the first institution. The first institution I do want to talk about is the military. Now, let me make this emphatically clear. I love our servicemen and women. I respect our servicemen and women. I have family that serve in the military, and I love them, and I absolutely respect them. I'm speaking specifically of the top brass in our military. And I know this isn't the case with all of them. So let me make this emphatically clear. These people keep us safe. You know, I going back to one of my favorite movies from back in the day, A Few Good Men, I want them on the wall. I believe that we need them on the wall. But I think we'd be lying to ourselves if we said that there isn't a problem with some of our military brass. And I think it's going to impact our ability to be able to recruit troops in the future. There's no doubt that it's impacted our relationships with our allies, and there's no doubt that it's also impacted our relationships with our adversaries. They know that they can get away with a lot more. So we're going to go through this. We're going to talk about the military. We're going to talk about academia. We're going to talk about the church. Because all of these institutions, the left has permeated, and I believe all of it goes back to the educational system. So we'll harp on the educational system in the second hour. Also, at the bottom of the hour, we're going to have Jorge Bonilla with us from Media Research Latino. You guys I'm not sure if you guys know, actually, Jorge called this out, I think, here before anywhere else in media. He told us there was another caravan coming. This was, if I recall, this was almost a couple of weeks ago. And now we're hearing the reports of another caravan of Haitians that are coming. We're going to talk about that, as well as other issues related to the border agents having to get the COVID vaccine and all this type of nonsense. Obviously, you have the government shutdown looming, so we'll talk about that a little bit. But let's start here. There are three things that the Republicans have exposed. Thank God. Senate Republicans have exposed three blatant lies about the Afghanistan withdrawal by Biden during the hearings with the Pentagon's top military leaders, with Milley, with Lloyd Austin, with General McKenzie. It's been phenomenal. Lie number one. You guys have heard this, but let's just reiterate it because we are in a dangerous place in America. And I'll be honest with you. The solution, obviously, for us is to pay more attention in this particular situation. Call out our congressmen, our senators, state and local officials. We all have to become more involved. We all have to become more aware. But the first lie that we were told, the first lie that we know now, is that Biden never told or no one told Biden to keep troops in Afghanistan. That's what Biden said. Did you guys, by the way, hear the chants when Biden went to the congressional baseball game? I don't want to go all over the place here, but that's our commander-in-chief. He didn't get a great reception. But no one told Biden to keep the troops in Afghanistan. That's huge, right? That's absolutely huge. Biden completely lied about it. The guy's a habitual liar. The first lie the senators exposed was Biden telling ABC News' George Stephanopoulos back in August that no one advised him to keep 2,500 American troops in Afghanistan. And we know now every single one of them did, from Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, regardless of how you feel about him and how I feel about him. Milley, the same is true with U.S. Central Command Commander General Frank McKenzie. So they all admitted that they had agreed with the recommendation to keep at least that many troops, and that they were heard by Biden and basically ignored by Biden. Under questioning by Senate Armed Services Committee Ranking Member Jim Inhofe, McKenzie admitted, I recommended that we maintain 2,500 troops in Afghanistan, and that he was confident Biden heard all of his recommendations. So the question is, did Biden forget? Did Biden just ignore? Under questioning from Senator Tom Cotton, Milley also admitted that it was also his assessment that there should be a steady state of 2,500 forces in Afghanistan. Austin said their input was received by the president and considered by the president for sure. So we know that our president is a complete and utter liar when it comes to what happened in Afghanistan, or at least the recommendation of keeping troops behind in Afghanistan. You know, sometimes I go back and forth. I'm like, okay, with this guy Biden in the White House, how is he completely off of his rocker? Is he just unable or incapable of remembering anything past a couple hours or so? And then sometimes I wonder if he's just a jerk and a mean person who just, this is the way it's going to be. I'm not hearing any other suggestions, and, you know, screw the country, basically. No matter what happens, happens. Sometimes I can't lie. Some days I come in here and I'm like, yeah, and I do, listen, there's no doubt, just looking at the man, he's not completely there. I know that. But I just wonder how much he's able to retain. All right, so Biden claims that al-Qaeda is not in Afghanistan. So that's the second lie that Republicans thank God exposed. And I'll be frank with you, I thought that these military officials were going to come in there a little more prepared. Their opening statements seemed good and well and legitimate and all that kind of good stuff. But once, you know, it's something that they always say in court. Everyone looks good. Every witness looks good until they're cross-examined. And that's exactly what happened with every single one of these guys. So the second lie that was exposed was that Biden was saying on August 21st during the White House press conference, that al-Qaeda was gone from Afghanistan, and thus the U.S. had no vital national security there. And then Senator Dan Sullivan asked Milley, was al-Qaeda gone from Afghanistan in mid-August? Is that true or not true? And then Milley responded, al-Qaeda is still in Afghanistan. They were there in mid-August, and they were also asked to respond. McKenzie said al-Qaeda was present in Afghanistan. Under questioning from Inhofe, Austin also said, Senator, I think there are remnants of al-Qaeda still in Afghanistan. And we all know that to be true. I don't think there's much of a difference, if any at all, between the Taliban, al-Qaeda, ISIS-K, al-Nusra Front, any one of these groups. They're terrorists. They're Islamo-fascists. They're terrorists. They hate you. They hate me. They hate the nation of Israel. They think they're the little Satan. They hate the U.S. They think we're the big Satan. But what's disconcerting to me is none of these military officials were willing to take a stand and say, you know what, Mr. President, I disagree with what you're doing. This is the wrong action to take. I'm going to resign. There is a soldier that has paid the price for that. There is a soldier that has paid the price. He's in the brig. We'll talk about him in the next segment. A third lie, Biden promises to leave troops until all Americans are evacuated. And I should say, listen, we have a civilian commander-in-chief. The vast majority of the blame lies with him. But we also have a social justice warrior in Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. We have a social justice warrior and somebody that's just seeking fame when it comes to Mark Milley. And it needs to stop. We're in crisis mode, folks. This is Carl Jackson in for Larry Elder. We'll be back.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Yesterday, that not one Republican would support the budget that's coming over with a debt hike attached. They will not support a debt hike relief standing alone. Is that your position?
Absolutely. Democrats have the White House, the House, and the Senate. They don't want any of our involvement with all their radical spending, which we shouldn't be. And so if they want to raise the debt ceiling, they want to do it on their own. You know why? They've been very clear. They don't want to do the debt ceiling on their own because they know it's toxic. They say, oh, we want you to be part of our what we're doing here. You know, their budget in this deal, the $3.5, which is really $5.5 trillion, will take our debt to $45 trillion. Now let's look at what's happening in families right now with inflation. It's hurting our poorest families. It's hurting our families on fixed income. And the Democrats are causing all this with their spending, and they don't want to be responsible for it. They are responsible for what's going on.
And so do you think you'll keep, for example, you've got to get Senator Murkowski reelected, and I hope you do. I think she's a good, solid vote on 99% of the stuff that we vote on. Will she and any other Republican think about bolting and voting for it? Because it will hurt them. It will really hurt them if they vote for any Democratic
package. I don't think any of them are going to vote for it. We have a clean continuing resolution that McConnell and Richard Shelby put together that will deal with. We're not going to do the debt ceiling. That's the Democratic responsibility. We'll keep the government open. We will help with the Afghan refugees, and we'll also help with the disaster relief for Louisiana. So ours is clean, all right? But the Democrats don't want to do it. I don't know if we'll even get a vote on it. So the Democrats might shut down government. I don't think they will, but they could decide to shut down government.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
Women are born ignorant of male sexual nature. It's not their fault. We're so different from women. There's no fault here, but it is the fault of a society that doesn't teach them that. And society always did, but not since the 60s, because they wanted to believe men and women are basically the same. So I'm curious, are you a religious home?
Yes, we are religious.
Right. So here's my theory. Religious Americans are less naive than secular Americans.
I like that theory. I concur because we speak of evil.
That's right.
And we speak of wrongdoing. Yes.
Exactly right. You're a joy. You're in Fort Worth. I don't blame you. I hope we meet one day. And your husband should give me a couple of cigars. There's no question about that. Isn't it interesting, folks? Do you know who probably the most ignorant women in America are about men? Women who get PhDs in the social sciences. I would say that a woman who got a PhD in gender studies or in sociology or anthropology knows less about men than a high school dropout from a Christian home. And they're the people teaching your kids.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
Number to call in, 888-971-7243. What are the first words that come to mind when you think of the military? What are the first words or first word that comes to mind when you think of our U.S. military? There's a few that come to mind for me. Duty, honor, sacrifice. Those are the words that come to mind when I think about those that... obviously, those that have given the ultimate sacrifice, but those that choose to serve. I've told you a couple of times, I'm sure, on air, I had the opportunity to join the armed forces, and unfortunately, I didn't do that. I wish I had. I was just a stupid young kid getting into trouble. at the time, and I regret it to this day. But but life goes on. But I respect these men and women. But there is a culture that exists within our military because of the leadership, And I feel like it's damaging our military. It's damaging our ability to be able to keep Americans safe. I mean, we can just look at what happened in Kabul with those 13 servicemen and women that were killed. Some say by ISIS-K. I believe both Taliban and ISIS-K were involved, quite frankly. It just makes no sense to me that an ISIS-K member just happened to get through the checkpoints and kill some of our servicemen, along with Afghanistan citizens as well. But duty, honor, sacrifice. That's what comes to mind. I don't believe that Joe Biden is the commander-in-chief. I don't like saying it, but it's a fact. He's the commander-in-chief. I have no respect for the man. Mark Milley, Joint Chiefs of Staff, in his current position, I have no respect for the man. I don't know enough about his military history I just don't know enough about him. I do know right now he's very political. He tries to pretend and act like he's not political. He's gone so far as to warn the Chinese General Lee, that if we were to attack, he would let him know. He's admitted this now. So now we know. This Bob Woodward book that I don't want to help sell, they were telling the truth. Biden promised to leave troops until all Americans are evacuated. He lied about that. Senate Republicans also forced the defense leader to admit that Biden's vow to keep U.S. troops in Afghanistan until all Americans were out was also a lie. Inhofe noted that Biden had also told Stephanopoulos, if there's American citizens, we're going to stay to get them all out. But U.S. troops left with Americans still there, and they are still there. This guy doesn't deserve to be in the White House. Mark Milley doesn't deserve to be the Joint Chief of Staff. Speaking of Mark Milley, got some audio clips of this guy. General Mark Milley. He does not deserve to be in this position. I want you to hear this audio clip number 1, admitting that he told the Chinese general that he would warn him, our number one adversary, that he would warn him. That is disgusting. Anyway, audio clip number 1.
I said, General Lee, there's not going to be a war, there's not going to be attack between great powers. And if there was, the tensions would build up. There'd be calls going back and forth from all kinds of senior officials. I said, hell, General Lee, I'll probably give you a call, but we're not going to attack you. Trust me, we're not going to attack you. These are two great powers, and I am doing my best to transmit the president's intent, President Trump's intent, to ensure that the American people are protected from an incident that could escalate.
I understand your intent, but I think you articulating that you would tell him, you would give him a call, I think is worthy of your resignation. I just think that's against our country, that you would give our number one adversary that information and tell him that.
Okay, so that was General Mark Milley. I want you to hear this second audio clip of the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin. Audio clip 9, please.
The fact that the Afghan army that we and our partners trained simply melted away, in many cases without firing a shot, took us all by surprise, and it would be dishonest to claim otherwise. We need to consider some uncomfortable truths: that we did not fully comprehend the depth of corruption and poor leadership in their senior ranks, that we did not grasp the damaging effect of frequent and unexplained rotations by President Ghani of his commanders, that we did not anticipate the snowball effect caused by the deals that the Taliban commanders struck with local leaders in the wake of the Doha Agreement.
Okay. I don't believe him. I don't believe him for a split second. You're telling me, you're the Secretary of Defense. You're telling me that we've been in the region nearly 20 years. Nearly 20 years. We've worked alongside these soldiers. We know that tens of thousands of them died. We also know that the president that bounced, I forget his name now, the president that deserted from Afghanistan, Ashraf Ghani. We also know that he asked Biden for at least support when it came to helicopters and being able to strike missiles, all this kind of stuff at the Taliban, aerial support, logistical support. Biden refused to give him that. And I know he shouldn't have bounced. I know that was wrong. But we've been told a lie. We knew they weren't capable. Even Ashraf Ghani wanted help. He didn't get it. He didn't get it. He probably would have bounced anyway. I get it. But nonetheless, these people knew. They knew what was at stake. They knew how weak these troops were. They just lied to us. Just straight up lied to us. But here's honor. Here's honor. You guys heard of this guy, Stuart Scheller, Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller? I've seen his parents all over the place on news. I'd love to try to get him on this program. But this is a guy that just did a Facebook video, a YouTube video, and all he asked was for accountability. The guy has served 17 years. Now he's in the brig because he did a video. He just said, I just want accountability. Honor, duty, sacrifice. This is the type of soldier that you want leading your son into battle, not secretary. I'm sorry. I know that's past. They're not soldiers anymore, but this is the guy you want. Honor, duty, sacrifice. This guy is sitting in jail for asking for accountability. And you have these men and Mark Milley, you have Lloyd Austin that are absolutely destroying the credibility of our military. They need to go. They need to go. It's as simple as that. I'll be back with Jorge Bonilla on the other side.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
We understand that a plane has crashed into...
The people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Biggest and most costly manhunt in U.S. history.
United States killed Osama bin Laden.
There are reports surfacing that Al-Qaeda has placed a $50,000 US bounty on the heads of any U.S. Navy SEALs.
Nobody's going to survive that. There's nobody in that.
This is the single largest loss of life in Afghanistan in a single incident.
Most of them are U.S. Navy SEALs.
We discovered bullets in the bodies of the Navy SEALs. The military threw them away.
More likely than not, that supports a shootout on board.
Anybody out there, we have a fallen angel.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families through an unlikely alliance between the Chinese government and a British footballer. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans. With unprecedented access across the country, this is a unique insight into the lives of the 90s orphans now driving the 21st century's fastest growing economy. This story needs to be told across the world. At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor. We would have sandwiches with no meat. My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO.
We'll all be able to say, free at last, free at last.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Nine 971-7243. We're talking about the institutions that are hurting, the institutions that the left have whittled away at. They have destroyed, they have infiltrated, they've permeated them with all their left-wing radical ideas, from the military to academia to church. But right now, before we get back to those topics, I'm going to go to my guest, Jorge Bonilla of the Media Research Center Latino. Welcome back to the Larry Elder Show.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's great to be back.
All right. Okay, so Jorge, right off the bat, you called it. You were here a couple of weeks ago, and you said, listen, there's another caravan coming, and it appears that obviously you were right. I mean, as many as I'm hearing numbers anywhere from 40 to 60,000 more Haitians showing up, and that's just Haitians. I don't know. It seems like we're fixated on Haitians. I'm sure, obviously, there are more than just Haitians coming, given, and we'll get to this as well, that we just set nearly a 100-year record with people trying to enter the United States illegally.
Well, look, we're nowadays we're averaging about 200,000 illegal migrants a month coming over the border. Those are the ones that are getting caught by the Border Patrol, not counting the ones that sneak by. It's 200,000 a month. And like you said, last time we were here, we pointed out that, and this was last month, there were 120,000 migrants in southern Mexico alone, in the southernmost state called Chiapas. There were 120,000 migrants there, 30,000 of which were Haitian, not counting people at the border, on their way through Mexico to the border, and not counting people still making their way through Central America or trying to cross the Panama jungles. So it's a pretty precarious situation when it comes to the border call.
All right.
Now
so
the fact is, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. Now what made it newsworthy, because the media were not talking about this. The media didn't begin talking about this until there were a bunch of people, until there were a bunch of Haitians under a bridge, and until the whole thing with the horseback Border Patrol. And if you recall, At that time, we said that there was a very similar track to Hurricane Maria, in that this was a story that the media neglected until, in the case of Hurricane Maria, until there was a Trump adverse angle that they could exploit and frame the news that way. In the case of the border was, so long as we all have the understanding that the Border Patrol is the Trump proxy, then they could use the Border Patrol, make the Border Patrol the villain, the bad guy, and frame the story that way. And then they took interest in the border crisis. But until then, they hadn't done so.
So this broke not too long ago, Jorge, and I just want to get your reaction to it, because just when we think this is, guys, I'm sorry, this is, we can't pretend anymore. This is intentional. This is insane. You have people from Panama now saying, hey, listen, we warned these guys they were coming. Speaking of the Biden administration, but listen to this, Jorge. This broke a little earlier today on Breitbart. Internal documents revealed to Breitbart, Texas, that the Border Patrol agents have been instructed to cease expelling all migrant family units under the Trump-era Title 42 emergency COVID order. The instructions come after a federal judge ordered the Biden administration to cease using the COVID-19 emergency order to immediately expel any family unit containing minors. The instructions to release the migrants into the U.S. took full effect today. So now, even under Title 42, and we only have about 30 seconds before the break, but I want to get your response. We can't even send the sick people out. And you have this caravan coming. Your response, 30 seconds.
I expect that this will be appealed. The judge in that case is Judge Emmett Sullivan, who, if I recall correctly, was the same judge that did the Michael Flynn trial.
Are you kidding me? You're right. You're right. You're right. Oh, my God. So the same judge that screwed General Mike Flynn is now screwing the rest of the United States. This is unreal. I didn't even see that. You're right. Jorge Bonilla, Media Research Center Latino. We'll be right back. Oh.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
When I started teaching, I was only 25. I was only 7 years older than my students. That's not a great span of time for between a man and a young woman, and it is a daily distraction.
That's right. It is. I thank you for your honesty. That is exactly right, and it is not his fault. He's built that way. It's no more his fault than food is a distraction to the hungry. Okay? There is no difference between the two. So I'll tell you an interesting story, really interesting. Many years ago, and I can't find this on the internet, maybe one of you can, and that would be of great help to me. I only remember that he was from a university in Indiana, but I don't remember which university. What did it say, Sean? So a professor did a study and found that one of the two groups, I don't remember the second, of men most likely to divorce were high school teachers. And I think college teachers. In other words, men around a great number of young women divorced at a greater rate than any other men. And I had that professor on with that study. So if you could find that, I could read it to you.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
Streaming on Salem Now.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families through an unlikely alliance between the Chinese government and a British footballer. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans. With unprecedented access across the country, this is a unique insight into the lives of the 90s orphans now driving the 21st century's fastest growing economy. This story needs to be told across the world. At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The Larry Elder Show. On the line with me is Jorge Bonilla, Media Research Center Latino. Jorge, give your information out for people that want to be able to follow you in the Media Research Center Latino. Are you there? Do we have Jorge? Okay, so
wait a minute. There you go.
Okay, there we
You there?
go. All right. So give your information out, Jorge.
That's what happens when you got the phone close to your face and you accidentally mute yourself. That's what happens on these iPhones.
It happens.
It happens every once in a while. So you can find us on Twitter at BonillaJL. That's BONILLAJL. That's my personal Twitter page, where dialogue is sometimes a little bit more spicier than what you hear on the Larry Elder Show. You can find us on Twitter also at MRC Latino. That's MRC Latino on Twitter, as well as Instagram, MRC Latino on Instagram. And we're putting a lot more content out on Instagram. We have a YouTube page, and we have a Facebook page where you can follow MRC Latino, and our website, mrclatino.org.
Okay, all right. So this is big news because now, I mean, it's not just Haitians, but this order extends to anyone coming from the Northern Triangle countries as well. Family units from Mexico will be afforded the opportunity to voluntarily return should they choose not to. The people from Haiti will be given, or at least all of these people, supposedly or allegedly will be given an ankle bracelet, which isn't going to work. They're just going to throw those things away once they get into the interior of the United States, never to be found again. This is unreal. I didn't expect this, but this makes it all the more clear that Judge Emmett Sullivan was just a total Trump hater. I believe this guy sees this as an opportunity to spite the Trump administration that isn't in office anymore. But we're the ones that are going to be impacted. We're the ones that are going to be hurt. Judge Sullivan is a black judge. He's a liberal. We all know it. But he used to seem like a pretty solid judge. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore. I don't know what's happening with the left, but they're going absolutely crazy. Your response, Jorge?
I mean, it's plain as day. It's clear to the eye that how are you going to stop and just order that the stop of title, whether it's Title 42 deportations, in the middle of a pandemic, right? Like the whole rationale behind Title 42, it's race neutral. And what happens is with most of these policies, you have to show when you're doing something and you're told not to do it, you got to show that it's race neutral. So I would imagine that the Biden administration is going to scramble and try to get this over, because you still have to at least fake it like you're enforcing border laws. So something like Title 42, that's the valve off of the pressure cooker, the escape valve, if you will. So I imagine that they'll enforce that. But again, that's something that Breitbart reported it, but I don't know who else did with regard to who was the judge assigned to the case. That's that sometimes that gives you indicia of how things may or may not go.
Yeah. This is and this makes this all the more silly when we consider the fact that border agents are now under a vaccine mandate. This makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, literally, why would you have Border Patrol agents force them to get a vaccine when you're literally putting them in harm's way? These people they can refuse to be tested at the border sites, first off. And now they're saying Title 42 is totally thrown out the window. So now if they come in with mumps, measles, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And on the other hand, the Biden administration is trying to scramble to redo MPP, which is the Remain in Mexico program, while at the same time they are trying to issue new executive orders to unwind the program and pretend to be in compliance with the court. So what we see, and again, this wasn't really reported in the media until the media had to do it, was this fundamental unwillingness to enforce the border. And, people could knock Trump all they want, but Trump always just say, you got no borders, you got no country. Yeah. Yeah, there's
border security is national security.
Yeah, this is a huge threat to national security. Listen, not only are they going to change the demographic, and obviously that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to import Democrats. That's what they're hoping, to be honest. But I look at this as a bioweapon. I'm not trying to sound crazy or silly, but if you're not concerned about the illnesses, people with illness coming into your country illegally, how many people are these people going to infect? It's almost as if, and I believe it's true, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, Jorge, but I believe these people want people to get sick. I believe they want more variants of the Wuhan flu, just so they can do exactly what they're doing in California and impose a forever mail-in ballot, legislation, basically, and just continue to try to rule the country.
There's a lot of that. If you have a permanent emergency, then you can continue to have permanent emergency measures, whether it be lockdowns, whether it be elections. And now I didn't see this reported very much, but the CDC now is declaring guns to be gun ownership to be a public health crisis.
Yeah.
And they are putting together a work group so they can mitigate this public health crisis, quote unquote, using some of the same strategies that were used with COVID.
All right. Jorge, we got just 10 seconds before the break, so just hold on with that thought. We'll continue after the break. Callers, I see you out there. I'll get to you as soon as I can. This is Carl Jackson in for Larry Elder. We'll be back.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Yesterday, that not one Republican would support the budget that's coming over with a debt hike attached. They will not support a debt hike relief standing alone. Is that your position?
Absolutely. Democrats have the White House, the House, and the Senate. They don't want any of our involvement with all their radical spending, which we shouldn't be. And so if they want to raise the debt ceiling, they want to do it on their own. You know why? They've been very clear. They don't want to do the debt ceiling on their own because they know it's toxic. They say, oh, we want you to be part of our what we're doing here. You know, their budget in this deal, the $3.5, which is really $5.5 trillion, will take our debt to $45 trillion. Now let's look at what's happening in families right now with inflation. It's hurting our poorest families. It's hurting our families on fixed income. And the Democrats are causing all this with their spending, and they don't want to be responsible for it. They are responsible for what's going on.
And so do you think you'll keep, for example, you've got to get Senator Murkowski reelected, and I hope you do. I think she's a good, solid vote on 99% of the stuff that we vote on. Will she and any other Republican think about bolting and voting for it? Because it will hurt them. It will really hurt them if they vote for any Democratic.
I don't think any are going to vote for it. We have a clean continuing resolution that McConnell and Richard Shelby put together that will deal with. We're not going to do the debt ceiling. That's the Democratic responsibility. We'll keep the government open. We will help with the Afghan refugees, and we'll also help with the disaster relief for Louisiana. So ours is clean, all right? But the Democrats don't want to do it. I don't know if we'll even get a vote on it. So the Democrats might shut down government. I don't think they will, but they could decide to shut down government.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America. You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
Are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Jackson in for Larry Elder, coming to you live from the ReliefFactor.com studio. Oh, by the way, Cry Macho. Let me talk to you about Cry Macho. Warner Brothers Pictures presents Cry Macho. From legendary director Clint Eastwood comes a story of being lost and found. Eastwood returns as a one-time rodeo star and a washed-up horse breeder who takes a job to bring back a man's young son home from Mexico. The unlikely pair face an unexpectedly challenging journey. The only road home is through redemption. See it in theaters and on HBO Max for 31 days. Now playing, rated PG-13, may be unsuitable for audiences under the age of 13. Jorge, I hope you'll see Cry Macho with Clint Eastwood. I love me some Clint Eastwood.
Who doesn't love some Clint?
I know. That's so crazy. Who doesn't love Clint Eastwood? You got to be on crack if you don't like Clint Eastwood. All right, so I thought, listen, I sat here thinking, Jorge, that the big story was that we are approaching a nearly 100-year record as far as the number of contacts the Border Patrol has come in contact with over the border or what have you in the last, since Biden has been in office. And we're going to break a record. You know, the record hasn't been broken, I guess, since 1924. It's nearly 100 years. But this is going to put that record to shame, because these people absolutely don't intend on enforcing our laws whatsoever, and they don't even care that you know about it anymore.
They don't. It's shameless. It's shameless, and it makes it all that much more important for us to sort of safeguard the institutions that we hold dear. And you would think, Carl, that a lot of, and certainly the media doesn't see it this way when they report it, but a lot of these issues go hand in hand. So when we talk about the border crisis and about immigration, it's almost a foregone conclusion that within the scope of the next 4 years, enforcement is lax, right?
Right.
Enforcement is going to be lax, and these kids, when they come over, they're going to go into our school systems and sort of begin their march through our institutions. Many of them end up becoming, if the immigration situation hasn't been settled or fixed, many of them eventually become, or they get on a path to become woke activists, woke immigration activists.
This is
so
insane.
It's very important. I'm sorry?
No, go ahead real quick. We got 10 seconds.
So that's why it's important to go after the school boards.
All right. Okay.
CRT, school boards, it's all hand in hand.
All right. We'll be talking about schools next. This is Carl Jackson in for Larry Elder. We'll be back on the other side. Dennis, I see you there. We'll get your call on the other side.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
When I started teaching, I was only 25. I was only 7 years older than my students. That's not a great span of time for between a man and a young woman, and it is a daily distraction.
That's right. It is. I thank you for your honesty. That is exactly right, and it is not his fault. He's built that way. It's no more his fault than food is a distraction to the hungry. Okay? There is no difference between the two. So I'll tell you an interesting story, really interesting. Many years ago, and I can't find this on the internet, maybe one of you can, and that would be of great help to me. I only remember that he was from a university in Indiana, but I don't remember which university. What did it say, Sean? So a professor did a study and found that one of the two groups, I don't remember the second, of men most likely to divorce were high school teachers. And I think college teachers. In other words, men around a great number of young women divorced at a greater rate than any other men. And I had that professor on with that study. So if you could find that, I could read it to you.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
Streaming on Salem Now.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families through an unlikely alliance between the Chinese government and a British footballer. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans. With unprecedented access across the country, this is a unique insight into the lives of the 90s orphans now driving the 21st century's fastest growing economy. This story needs to be told across the world. At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
So anyway, you start with that notion of 15,000 people under that bridge in Del Rio. 15,000, okay? These are the numbers released by DHS. Number returned to Haiti, 1,401. Number in Customs and Border Patrol custody, 3,206. Number remaining at the bridge in Del Rio, according to DHS, 3,881. So, I'm sorry, those three numbers that I just gave you are about 8,500. Where's the other 8,000? Where are they? And the answer might be St. Louis. That might be in the suburbs of Dallas and Fort Worth, right outside my door. Because this is the plan. Do not let yourself be caught walking around saying, this Biden-Harris administration, they're just inept. They don't have a plan. Oh, yes, they do. Huge waves of a needy underclass pouring across our border so that you instantly need far more social services, far more government spending, because that is the crack pipe of the left. And then ultimately, all of these people are going to vanish into the tapestry of America, where they will eventually be normalized and ultimately, of course, energized for decades of grateful Democrat voting.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
There's about 57 Muslim states in the world. There's one Jewish state.
The massive ingathering of Jews in the last 150 years back to the land is absolutely unprecedented.
They say that there's no greater sign of redemption coming than the Jewish people returning to the hills of Judea.
As a Christian, I've always supported Israel's claim to the Holy Land. To me, the Palestinians were just getting in the way of God's plan.
300,000 Palestinians are unemployed.
In spite of all the years of conflict, there's hope here, if you know where to look for it.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Fiance? No, I can't be your fiance.
You're gonna go. You're gonna be my fiance, and you're gonna be the most amazing, fascinating, most successful man ever. We're only gonna be there for a few hours, eat dinner, and I promise we'll have the best breakup of all time.
My baby, my princess. Oh, yeah. I'll beat a little bit.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
All right, welcome back to the Larry Elder Show. I'm your special guest host, Carl Jackson, filling in for the great Eldersky. The number to call in, 888-971-7243, 888-971-7243. In light of the news that we just heard in the last hour, I've got to speak on that some. I will take a call here first, but I got to talk about the compassion of borders. This is the news in the last hour. It shook me. It shook me, and I hope that it's shaking you. Listen, we have a republic, if we can keep it, and we need to be on the phones today. I need to make sure that it'll probably be a little late for me, but tomorrow. I'm going to be on the phone calling my congressman, senators. There's got to be a stop to this. This is absolutely insane. The numbers that I didn't give you earlier with Jorge. Let me just read off some numbers to you. This is before I found out the news that this judge is just basically Title 42. Screw it. Let anybody come in. Any family unit, don't break them up. These people are seeking asylum allegedly. These people aren't leaving their countries because of persecution, religious persecution. They're not leaving their country because someone's out to get them and kill them or something like that. They just want a life that's better. They left Haiti, and I'm focusing on Haitians for now, all right? But they left Haiti. They went to places that provided them a better life, whether it was Brazil, whether it was Chile or Argentina or elsewhere. So they had a better life. And so now they want to come to America to have an even better life. I don't want to hear any leftists tell me how bad America is. When we have people over a couple of million or approaching a couple of million that are going to be coming into our country illegally this year. When James Carafano told us earlier in this week that he could imagine up to 10 million people entering our nation illegally, I was thinking, yeah, that's a lot of people. I know that a lot of people are entering, but that's a lot of people. Guys, he may be right on the money. With less than 48 hours left in fiscal year 2021, actually, this was written a couple days ago, the Border Patrol has already surpassed the total number of migrant apprehensions made in any year along the southwest border since the agency's inception in 1924. A source within the Customs and Border Protection notes the unofficial apprehension record shows more than 1,646,000 for the year as of yesterday. And now we know there are caravans coming with tens of thousands of more people. And now you have this judge, Emmett Sullivan. If you don't doubt that these people are leftists, if you don't doubt that these people want to transform America, if you don't doubt that these people just spite Trump, Judge Emmett Sullivan really believed, I guess, the lie that Trump is some racist, this and that. So he's just totally abandoning the Remain in Mexico policy, the Title 42 rule. Forget it. Come one, come all. Come one, come all. And here's what many of the left understand, especially these elites. They live high on the hog. They live in their fancy homes. They live in their fancy neighborhoods, and they think they won't be impacted by this. One day they will. One day they will. And sadly, that might be the only way that it stops. But this is insane. I'm sorry. I'm going to get into why this isn't compassion. Let me take a call quickly here. Let's go to Dennis in Tampa. Dennis, welcome to the Larry Elder Show. You've got the mic.
Hello. Hello, Carl. God bless you, sir.
Thank you.
You're a great American.
Thank you.
All right, I'll be real quick. I want you to keep this terminology in mind. Holy smokes. Okay. At Bagram Air Force, holy smokes, remember that. At Bagram Air Force Base, we left 2,000 armored Humvees, 75,000. I know the base over there. After the military, I've been flying piston aircraft all over this country and Canada. Okay. And Alaska. All right, 75,000 Ford Rangers, pickups, vans, 45 Black Hawk helicopters, and they use jet fuel, other attack helicopters, 4 C-130s, which one or two of those are probably tankers that fuel aircraft in the air, and A-29 ground attack aircraft. Now, I'm near McGill airport. I'm guessing under the ground at Bagram, there are probably 2 million gallons of jet fuel under the ground, and another million regular aviation fuel that can fuel a Humvee, which is 100 low lead octane. So, holy smokes, I've got some ideas on how to get rid of Bagram.
Okay, tell us quickly, Dennis. Hello?
Drop a bomb in the middle of the field. What's going to happen to 2 million gallons of jet fuel?
Yeah. Right.
No one's talked about that. No one has mentioned all the fuel under the ground there.
And I'll tell you the truth, I didn't know about it. So this is eye-opening to me. So I do appreciate you calling in to inform us. I mean, unfortunately, we don't. I don't think we have the chutzpah in the White House to do anything about that. Let me just talk to you about these borders. And I didn't intend to go here, but I'm not going to lie to you. The news in the last hour is just so disconcerting that we literally have a White House. We have a Department of Homeland Security that don't care about the safety of Americans, that don't care about borders, don't care about the United States. How do you have a country without borders? How do you have a culture without borders? How do you have a culture if you don't make people assimilate? As God is my witness, we are the only country, the only industrialized nation, dare I say, that is dumb enough to do this. I encourage you just for the fun of it. Google, I printed it out. I don't have it on me today, but I literally printed out Mexico's border policy. If we had the same border policy as Mexico, this country would be even more amazing than it is. A couple of years back, I wrote a column for Town Hall called Borders Are Compassionate. And I'm just going to read through it, so just bear with me. It may sound, we'll get started here. I only have 40 seconds before the break. It may sound smart to say that America is a nation of immigrants, but nothing could be further from the truth. There's no such thing as a nation of immigrants. A nation is defined by its geographical borders, its citizens, and their customs. Borders give us a sense of belonging, a place we can call home. Borders also provide a sense of security and a national identity. My friends, if we do not have borders, we don't have security, we don't have a national identity, and our customs are going to be ruined. I'll get into this further after the break. We'll be back.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
That not one Republican would support the budget that's coming over with a debt hike attached. They will not support a debt hike relief standing alone. Is that your position?
Absolutely. They have Democrats have the White House, the House, and the Senate. They don't want any of our involvement with all their radical spending, which we shouldn't be. And so if they want to raise the debt ceiling, they want to do it on their own. You know why? They've been very clear. They don't want to do the debt ceiling on their own because they know it's toxic. They say, well, we want you to be part of our what we're doing here. You know, their budget in this deal, the $3.5, which is really $5.5 trillion, will take our debt to $45 trillion. Now let's look at what's happening in families right now with inflation. It's hurting our poorest families. It's hurting our families on fixed income. And the Democrats are causing all this with their spending, and they don't want to be responsible for it. They are responsible for what's going on.
And so do you think you'll keep, for example, you've got to get Senator Murkowski reelected, and I hope you do. I think she's a good, solid vote on 99% of the stuff that we vote on. Will she and any other Republican think about bolting and voting for it? Because it will hurt them. It will really hurt them if they vote for any Democratic.
I don't think any of them are going to vote for it. We have a clean continuing resolution that McConnell and Richard Shelby put together that will deal. We're not going to do the debt ceiling. That's the Democratic responsibility. We'll keep the government open. We will help with the Afghan refugees, and we'll also help with the disaster relief for Louisiana. So ours is clean, all right? But the Democrats don't want to do it. I don't know if we'll even get a vote on it. So the Democrats might shut down government. I don't think they will, but they could decide to shut down government.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
We understand that a plane has crashed into...
The people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Biggest and most costly manhunt in U.S. history.
United States killed Osama bin Laden.
There are reports surfacing that Al-Qaeda has placed a $50,000 US bounty on the heads of any U.S. Navy SEALs.
Nobody's going to survive that. There's nobody in that.
This is the single largest loss of life in Afghanistan in a single incident.
Most of them are U.S. Navy SEALs.
We discovered bullets in the bodies of the Navy SEALs. The military threw them away.
More likely than not, that supports a shootout on board.
Anybody out there, we have a fallen angel.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor.
We would have sandwiches with no meat.
My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO.
We'll all be able to say, free at last, free at last.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The number to call in, 888-971-7243, 888-971-7243. And basically, I'm just reacting right now to this news that broke a little earlier. And again, let me just rehash it for you. We spoke about it briefly with Jorge Bonilla of Media Research Center Latino. And I was prepared to talk about, listen, we're getting ready to hit record numbers. I'm sure we have. I read an article just the other day that said, listen, we're en route to hit record level numbers when it comes to the border, almost a 100-year record. Again, a source within the Customs and Border Protection notes that the unofficial apprehension records show more than 1,646,000 for the year as of Wednesday. So that was as of yesterday. That doesn't include the people that are coming in through the port of entry. That doesn't include people that are somehow coming in through the northern border. That's a few regions along California and Texas. So 1,646,000 thus far this year. And we're only in, tomorrow we'll be into October. This is absolutely insane. And what's even worse, when you consider those numbers, when you stop and think, okay, this is getting so bad. The news is getting so bad for the Biden administration. This is wishful thinking anyway. They've even tried to flip the script. They tried to pretend like our border agents are racist and riding around on their horses singing yeehaw and whipping the Haitians as they try to come into America illegally. And we all found out that was a lie. We all knew it was a lie. Instinctively, we knew it was a lie. But they perpetuated this lie. Left-wing papers come out when it's already too late and say, oh, yeah. Here's a correction for you. It's, we don't have racist people riding horses, whipping people. The vast majority of Border Patrol agents, by the way, happen to be Latino. And then we heard this. That the Biden administration or the Biden DHS instructs Border Patrol to expand, catch, and release. Thanks to Judge Emmett Sullivan. So internal documents, and I'm just rehashing this for those of you that may have missed it in the first hour, because this has just totally messed up the stilo to my show, because I'm hot. I'm so sick and tired of the people that tell us how horrible America is, how hateful, how racist, how misogynistic, how xenophobic America is. Well, while all of these people are coming in, they're going to crowd it here. So if you hate America so much, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Leave. These people don't believe Democratic arguments. These people don't believe left-wing arguments. These upwards are soon to be 2 million people, at least, that are going to enter this country this year. They don't believe Democrats. They don't believe those liars when it comes to our borders. So again, the internal documents revealed to Breitbart that Border Patrol agents have been instructed to cease expelling all migrant family units under the Trump-era Title 42 emergency COVID order. The instructions come after a federal judge ordered the Biden administration. So the federal judge orders Biden to cease using the COVID-19 emergency order to immediately expel any family unit containing minors. The instructions to release the migrants into the United States took effect today. So Title 42, anyone with COVID-19, hey, don't bother testing them. Don't worry about it. You guys, hey, welcome into the interior of the United States. Mumps, measles, any of that stuff, anything that we've fought or we've gotten rid of, it doesn't matter. That's what Title 42 was for Trump. Anyone with any type of disease, illness, so on, etc. Adios. Immediate expulsion. Not anymore. And then, to rub salt in the wound, we find out the operating instructions to the Border Patrol come as the result of a September 16th injunction issued by none other than D.C. District Judge Emmett Sullivan. Judge Emmett Sullivan. Man, that sounds so familiar. And that's because it is. It's the same judge that kicked around General Mike Flynn because he hated Trump. This is, we are living in a, I'm telling you, we're living in a new world. We absolutely are living in a new world. Don't give me this nonsense that borders aren't compassionate. Again, I'm going to go through this column because America isn't a nation of immigrants. I hear people say that all the time. we're a nation of immigrants. We're a nation of immigrants, and everyone, it sounds it's like a cliche. I mean, everyone just says it without thinking about it. No, we're not a nation of immigrants. When you come to the United States legally, when people come to the United States, people risk it all, come to the United States for a better life. They come to the United States not to be an immigrant. They come to the United States to be citizens. At one point in time in history, when our borders weren't as secure and so on, etc., yeah, there were immigrants coming in through Ellis Island, what have you. It's a different country. Every country has to have borders. Every country is defined by its borders. God, every state is defined by its borders. That's what makes a country unique. That's what makes a state unique. If I travel to California, I will have a different experience in California than I'll have if I go to, I don't know, Idaho or North Dakota or something like that. There's state borders. And within those state borders, within those parameters, I experience a different culture. That's what makes the United States great. And dare I say, that's what makes the world great. We're not a nation of immigrants. We are a nation of citizens. Nothing could be further from the truth. There's no such thing, again, as a nation of immigrants. A nation, again, and I'm reading again, is defined by its geographical borders. If you do not have borders, you do not have a freaking country. You don't have citizens. You don't have customs that define your country. You don't have a sense of belonging. Does anyone today recognize this country? Does anyone recognize this country? I don't recognize this country anymore. We'll be back in a few.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
When I started teaching, I was only 25. I was only 7 years older than my students. That's not a great span of time for between a man and a young woman, and it is a daily distraction.
That's right. It is. I thank you for your honesty. That is exactly right, and it is not his fault. He's built that way. It's no more his fault than food is a distraction to the hungry. Okay? There is no difference between the two. So, I'll tell you an interesting story, really interesting. Many years ago, and I can't find this on the internet, maybe one of you can, and that would be of great help to me. I only remember that he was from a university in Indiana, but I don't remember which university. What did it say, Sean? So a professor did a study and found that one of the two groups, I don't remember the second, of men most likely to divorce were high school teachers. And I think college teachers. In other words, men around a great number of young women divorced at a greater rate than any other men. And I had that professor on with that study. So if you could find that, I could read it to you.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
Streaming on Salem Now.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families through an unlikely alliance between the Chinese government and a British footballer. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans. With unprecedented access across the country, this is a unique insight into the lives of the 90s orphans now driving the 21st century's fastest growing economy. This story needs to be told across the world. At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
So anyway, you start with that notion of 15,000 people under that bridge in Del Rio. 15,000, okay? These are the numbers released by DHS. Number returned to Haiti, 1,401. Number in Customs and Border Patrol custody, 3,206. Number remaining at the bridge in Del Rio, according to DHS, 3,881. So, I'm sorry, those three numbers that I just gave you are about 8,500. Where's the other set?
In a crisis. We are in a crisis. We are in an institutional crisis. In the first hour of the program, I talked to you a little bit about the military, and perhaps I'll get into that even more because I have more material on that. But I wanted to have this interview with Jorge Bonilla, Media Research Center, and honestly, a bombshell was just dropped. See, this is when you look at the borders, when you consider the borders, here's what the left knows. The left cannot beat us on the battlefield of ideas. And now the left must be convinced that more and more people, actually we know that by the polling, more and more people don't like Biden's ideas. But you know who will like the Democratic ideas right now as the Democrat Party exists today, full of left-wing radicals? Or people that want a free lunch, or people that want to take advantage of our system, people that want to break our laws. The first law they break is entering the country illegally. And then a judge just says, all right, let's wipe out Title 42. The judge takes the initiative to do it. Judge Emmett Sullivan. What a disgrace. From everything I understood, this was a judge that used to be full of integrity. Apparently, he's got Trump derangement syndrome. I don't know. I don't know how else to explain it. I don't even know how he could make that call. And then you have Democrats. I mean, I'm sure we'll touch on this shortly because we're going to have Alfredo Ortiz with us of Job Creators Network in just a few minutes. But whether we're talking about the debt ceiling, it looks like the House is going to, or the Congress is going to avert a debt ceiling. We'll see, a shutdown. But they're just overwhelming the system. We talked about this. And our institutions, many of our institutions are in crisis mode, and they need to be repaired. From our military to academia to our churches, every single one of them, the leadership, I would say, in every single one of them have failed. When you look at Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, when you look at Joint Chiefs of Staff Mark Milley, when you look at General McKenzie of Central Command, it makes no sense to me. And then we look at academia. We look at what's happening, CRT being taught. I'm going to give you some numbers soon. We'll get into that a little later in the program. the literacy rate around the United States. I know Larry Elder talked about it in his race in California, in that recall election race, just how bad the literacy rate was for blacks in California. But I got to tell you, it's horrible all across the country. It's not what it was, that's for sure. So we'll get into that a little bit, but I have to expound on this issue with the border. I want you to just stop and think about this. Again, going back to this issue, are we a nation of immigrants? Don't let people say that. Don't let those words come out of your mouth. We are not a nation of immigrants. Not anymore. We are American citizens. The left constantly wants to take us back like we're living in freaking, Jim Crow era or Reconstruction. We are no longer a nation of immigrants. We have had our fights. We've had the Revolutionary War to establish this country. We've had the Civil War. We've had civil rights legislation. We've had Reconstruction. We've done it. We've fought the fights. And these guys constantly want to take us back to a place where we just hate each other. Can you imagine what's going to happen? You have 10 to 11 million people that won't even work today because you have the Biden administration giving them a free lunch. What's going to happen when some of these illegal immigrants come in, perhaps take some of those jobs, and then the gravy train runs out on the federal government? Can you imagine? Can you imagine the animosity that some of these former U.S. workers will have for these illegal aliens that entered the country? They are setting up this country to be a racist, to be a, you name it, xenophobic country. And they're doing it intentionally. These people are evil. I don't know what else to say. I'm not being hyperbolic. The Biden administration is evil. They are evil. This is insane. This is insane. We'll be back with Alfredo Ortiz of the Job Creators Network. I'll continue diving into this, from borders to academia to the church. All of these institutions have failed us.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Yesterday, that not one Republican would support the budget that's coming over with a debt hike attached. They will not support a debt hike relief standing alone. Is that your position?
Absolutely. Democrats have the White House, the House, and the Senate. They don't want any of our involvement with all their radical spending, which we shouldn't be. And so if they want to raise the debt ceiling, they want to do it on their own. You know why? They've been very clear. They don't want to do the debt ceiling on their own because they know it's toxic. They say, we want you to be part of our what we're doing here. You know, their budget in this deal, the $3.5, which is really $5.5 trillion, will take our debt to $45 trillion. Now let's look at what's happening in families right now with inflation. It's hurting our poorest families. It's hurting our families on fixed income. And the Democrats are causing all this with their spending, and they don't want to be responsible for it. They are responsible for what's going on.
And so do you think you'll keep, for example, you've got to get Senator Murkowski reelected, and I hope you do. I think she's a good, solid vote on 99% of the stuff that we vote on. Will she and any other Republican think about bolting and voting for it? Because it will hurt them. It will really hurt them if they vote for any Democratic
package. I don't think any of them are going to vote for it. We have a clean continuing resolution that McConnell and Richard Shelby put together that will deal with. We're not going to do the debt ceiling. That's the Democratic responsibility. We'll keep the government open. We will help with the Afghan refugees, and we'll also help with the disaster relief for Louisiana. So ours is clean, all right. But the Democrats don't want to do it. I don't know if we'll even get a vote on it. So the Democrats might shut down government. I don't think they will, but they could decide to just shut down government.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are
are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
We understand that a plane has crashed into...
The people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Biggest and most costly manhunt in U.S. history.
United States killed Osama bin Laden.
There are reports surfacing that Al-Qaeda has placed a $50,000 US bounty on the heads of any U.S. Navy SEALs.
Nobody's going to survive that. There's nobody in that.
This is the single largest loss of life in Afghanistan in a single incident.
Most of them are U.S. Navy SEALs.
We discovered bullets in the bodies of the Navy SEAls. The military threw them away.
More likely than not, that supports a shootout on board.
Anybody out there, we have a fallen angel.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor.
We would have sandwiches with no meat.
My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO.
We'll all be able to say, free at last, free at last.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I want you guys to stop and think about it. Stop and think about this. Does Russia call its people a nation of immigrants, or would you call the Russian people a nation of immigrants? Would you do that of China? Would you do that of any country in Africa, Kenya? I don't know. Would you do it of any place in India, any state in India, Mexico? Is that a nation of immigrants? Or do we call them Mexicans? Or Canada, do we call them, are they a nation of immigrants? Are they Canadians? Switzerland, Taiwan, Iran, Poland? I mean, we can go on and on. Just like all of these nations, America is a country made up of borders, citizens, our traditions. We are Americans. We are Americans. We're not a nation of immigrants. We're American citizens. That it's a pet peeve of mine. I hear people say it all the time, and it sounds great, but I just don't think we stop and think about things enough. And the left is constantly using language, using speech in order to advance their agenda. All right, my guest is on the line, so we'll go to Alfredo Ortiz of Job Creators Network. Alfredo, welcome back to the Larry Elder Show.
Thank you so much, Carl. It's great to talk to you again, and it was good to see you in Tampa.
Absolutely. That was a very fun event. Okay, so Alfredo is the CEO of Job Creators Network, president and CEO of the Job Creators Network. He's led the defense of small business from the onslaught of the bad government policies that we see. Alfredo, can I do something a little untraditional? I want to play an audio clip for you, and I'd like to get your response to Jen Psaki. Let's play audio clip number 2, please, Sean.
I want to ask you about what Republicans are pointing to in the analysis from the Joint Committee on Taxation. They say, according to, if I've read the chart correctly, more than 16% of taxpayers would see their taxes increase under the bill that's approved by the House Ways and Means Committee. Will the president sign that bill as it is coming out of that committee, or will he insist on the changes so that he will maintain his commitment that taxes won't go up on people making $400,000 a year?
I have not looked at the document or the report that you have put out. Obviously, the president, or that you have referenced, I should say, that the Republicans put out. Obviously, the president's commitment remains not raising taxes for anyone making less than $400,000 a year. There are some, and I'm not sure if this is the case in this report, who argue that in the past, companies have passed on these costs to consumers. I'm not sure if that's the argument being made in this report. We feel that that's unfair and absurd, and the American people would not stand for that. But I will take a closer look at this report and get you a more substantive response.
Alfredo, did you hear that? She says it's absurd. Absurd for companies to pass on costs.
Carl, I absolutely did, and all I can say it's clueless, and the only absurdity was her statement. Of course they're going to pass on costs. These aren't philanthropic organizations, right? They're not non-for-profit organizations or government-run entities. I mean, if we were, in socialist Venezuela, maybe I could see what she's talking about. But look, the reality is taxes roll downhill, Carl. And every company does that. They take their costs and they pass on any incremental costs to their customers. They consume as much as they can, or they absorb as much as they can. But the reality is when you have tax increases, when you have labor shortages that are driving, the cost of labor up, when you've got basically, when you're competing with the Amazons of the world for labor and the government itself for labor, all these inputs are just going through the roof. Inflation, as we know, Carl, and we've talked about before, that's going through the roof. Supply chain issues are driving that as well, again, caused by labor shortages. So absolutely clueless, and the only folks that have an absurd statement really was Jen Psaki and the Biden administration.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. Alfredo, I feel like, something that needs to happen perhaps in our educational system, and I'm talking about elementary school, is I feel like we need to teach civics and entrepreneurship and for God's sakes, how to balance a checkbook, I guess. That's just insane to me. Okay, so some questions for you. So last week, Senator Marco Rubio unveiled the new legislation called the Mind Your Own Business Act, and Job Creators Network endorsed that. Tell us about this new bill and why you feel so strongly about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we had, great conversations with the office on that because it was actually inspired by our Major League Baseball lawsuit. Because, the idea there is that, these world corporations, and Major League Baseball was one of those, taking actions that really could potentially hurt shareholders. So his legislation, Senator Rubio's legislation, would really just require corporations to prove their woke actions were in their shareholders' best interest in order to avoid liability for breach of fiduciary duty. Bottom line is, mind your own business, which is the name of the act. I love it, right. Mind Your Own Business Act, right? And focus on the business that you're in, not in this political ridiculousness that exists. Mind what you're supposed to be doing and make sure that shareholders are maximizing, what their returns. I mean, it's a very simple idea. And again, it's economics 101. I mean, that's the problem with this entire administration, Carl, is that they just are absolutely clueless, from Jen Psaki's, comments to, the different elements that they're trying to push through for this $5.5 trillion, spending bill. I mean, it's all one and the same. I mean, it just shows they do not understand how this economy works.
Yeah, it's insane. We only have a minute before the break, but I'm going to ask you to stick with me if you can, Alfredo, because I still have plenty of questions that I'd like to ask you. So here's one. JCN has previously stood up to the woke corporations. You made national news for your lawsuit against the MLB. Can you give us a quick recap on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this summer, Major League Baseball decided to pull out of Georgia and move the game over to Colorado, which was amazing because it hurt small businesses in Atlanta. And in particular, these are, minority-owned businesses.
And they're trying to be woke.
Yeah, they're trying to be woke. It's 51%, minority-owned businesses, black-owned businesses, actually, in Georgia, small businesses, to Denver, where it's 9%. How is that helping? I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And again, it hurt $100 million of revenue. And so we sued Major League Baseball to try to move the game back.
Man, good for you. Good for you. I'm speaking to Alfredo Ortiz, the president and CEO of Job Creators Network. Alfredo, can you stick with me through the break? Come back on that. Okay. All right, we'll be back on the other side. More with Alfredo Ortiz of Job Creators Network.
Stay tuned for more with guest host Carl Jackson on the Larry Elder.
Streaming on Salem Now.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families through an unlikely alliance between the Chinese government and a British footballer. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans. With unprecedented access across the country, this is a unique insight into the lives of the 90s orphans now driving the 21st century's fastest growing economy. This story needs to be told across the world. At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
We understand that a plane has crashed into...
The people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Biggest and most costly manhunt in U.S. history.
United States killed Osama bin Laden.
There are reports surfacing that Al-Qaeda has placed a $50,000 bounty on the heads of any U.S. Navy SEALs.
Nobody's going to survive that. There's nobody in that.
This is the single largest loss of life in Afghanistan in a single incident.
Most of them are U.S. Navy SEALs.
We discovered bullets in the bodies of the Navy SEALs. The military threw them away.
More likely than not, that supports a shootout on board.
Anybody out there, we have a fallen angel.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
All right, welcome back to the Larry Elder Show. I am your special guest host, Carl Jackson, filling in for the great Eldersky. The number to call in, 888-971-7243. And callers, I see you. I'll have to get you on the other side of the break. For those of you that can hang on, I'm talking to Alfredo Ortiz, the president and CEO of Job Creators Network. Alfredo, we just have a couple minutes left, and I want to just go through some questions as quickly as we can here. But first, tell people what you guys are up to and how they can get a hold of you. And I'm speaking of the bus tour.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, we're on this wonderful bus tour across the country, Texas, Missouri, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and a couple other stops are actually being added. And then we're going to probably hit it again in the springtime, leading into, the fall of next year. But they can, first of all, get more information at jobcreatorsnetwork.com. And it's really a fantastic bus tour. We have small business owners. We have local congressmen of those districts involved, governors, as you know, for example, Governor DeSantis down in Florida at the last event. And it's just really a fantastic opportunity to really hear what small businesses are really feeling and the impact from the Biden administration and all of these ridiculous policies.
All right. So now, listen, you've already smacked the Major League Baseball down with a lawsuit, but you have another lawsuit that's going to impact 80 million Americans. Tell us about that quickly.
Yeah, well, that's ridiculous. That's probably the most ridiculous thing ever. That's the vaccine mandate, where Joe Biden and the administration, frankly, are deceiving the American public, and I think that's where we take great exception, because they're saying they're doing this mandate on our largest employers in this country. I don't know about you, Carl, but when I hear largest employers, I'm thinking Coca-Cola, Delta, IBM, et cetera, Microsoft.
Right.
No, it's 100 employees or more. The Small Business Administration itself says that small businesses are considered 500 employees or less. So this is a very, very deceptive tactic on behalf of the Biden administration, trying to make the American public think this is really only hitting the largest employers, when it's really going to hit, frankly, you know, the heartbeat of America, our small business owners. And it's very, very concerning. And, you know, when you think about it overall, first of all, you know, Carl, we're not anti-vaxxers. I encourage actually people to get the vaccine. I personally did it. But but we are anti-mandate. We just don't believe that we should be mandating this to our employers, to our employees, or basically threaten them with losing their job, or the employers for getting a $14,000 fine. I saw the best quote ever, Carl, and hopefully I have time to say
10
this.
seconds left. 10 seconds.
All right. Well, you're going to love this. The protected need to be protected from the unprotected by forcing the unprotected to use the protection that didn't protect the protected.
Alfredo, that's a good one. That's a mouthful. Alfredo Ortiz of the Job Creators Network. Thanks, man. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back on the other side.
Bye-bye.
That was.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
And as far as I'm concerned, if I may, as a former insider, the key question is going to be personnel. We need to build the bench that helps staff you and doesn't subvert you. What are your plans? What would the second term look like? And who's going to build that bench for you, sir?
Well, first of all, for your listeners, you did a fantastic job. You were terrific. I deal with you a lot. And I dealt with you after you went out and made a fortune. I hope you're making a fortune anyway, but I think you are based on your ratings. But I dealt with you a lot, and that's why I do your show, and I don't do a lot of other shows. I do people that I respect and people that have been fair, and you've been really, I congratulate you. But you were very important, and the great job that you did. You have a knowledge. I heard the word strategist mentioned in the opening, that you were a strategist, and that's really what Biden needs. He needs somebody to help him because our country is embarrassed. Our country has never been embarrassed like they are right now. In the speech in Alabama, where we had a massive crowd, they say 68,000 people showed up in the rain. It was rain and thunder. And I had the idea the morning of, this was Saturday, the morning of, put up the General Patton, the opening monologue that he does in the movie Patton, which I don't know if it got the Academy Award or very close. And I think George C. Scott did get the Academy Award. But we put up the opening monologue. And I said, that is not a woke general, but it's a general that knows how to win. And we have guys that are more interested in things that have nothing to do with our military. It's really what's going on now is crazy with our whole country. What they're doing now to our country is absolutely frightening.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not. We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor.
We would have sandwiches with no meat.
My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO.
We'll all be able to say, free at last, free at last.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
We understand that a plane has crashed into...
The people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Biggest and most costly manhunt in U.S. history.
United States killed Osama bin Laden.
There are reports surfacing that Al-Qaeda has placed a $50,000 bounty on the heads of any U.S. Navy SEALs.
Nobody's going to survive that. There's nobody in that.
This is the single largest loss of life in Afghanistan in a single incident.
Most of them are U.S. Navy SEALs.
We discovered bullets in the bodies of the Navy SEALs. The military threw them away.
More likely than not, that supports a shootout on board.
Anybody out there, we have a fallen angel.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families through an unlikely alliance between the Chinese government and a British footballer. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans. With unprecedented access across the country, this is a unique insight into the lives of the 90s orphans now driving the 21st century's fastest growing economy. This story needs to be told across the world. At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
¿Cuánto queda?
No queda nada. Que lo siento mucho.
That's the only time you can come to Christ, when the Spirit of God calls you to the cross. Don't you hesitate.
Have you ever thought of going to seminary?
Madre, Padre, ¿quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Elder Show. I will get to your calls shortly here. I just want to reiterate what we're going through tonight. And we're talking about how our major institutions, our most formidable institutions, you would think, you would hope anyway, have let us down: military, academia, and church. And now let me just, when it comes to the military, I'm not talking about rank and file. I'm talking about our top brass. We've seen it in these hearings on the Hill with Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, with the Joint Chiefs of Staff Mark Milley, with General McKenzie. We've all been severely underwhelmed and disappointed in the answers that they've given, and we're all in shock that no one has stepped up to the plate to resign. I want to go over the story of this gentleman, Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller, because he is being held in the brig. Now, let me say this. I've not been in the military. I don't know what the typical punishments are. We'll speak to James Carafano about this, I'm sure, next week. But there are Republicans that are in the House, both the House and Senate, that are calling on the release of Marine Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller. He served for 17 years, by the way. He was thrown into military jail this week after he criticized the military leadership for the botched Afghanistan, they say withdrawal, I'll say retreat, on social media, and continued posting about his disposition. According to a Marine Corps spokesperson, Scheller is currently in pre-trial confinement in the regional brig for Marine Corps installations east aboard Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune, pending an Article 32 preliminary hearing. The time, date, and location of the proceedings have not been determined. They need to give them those dates. I will say that. I'd imagine the military doesn't normally function like this. You go to jail. You're charged. You get some court dates. You get all that. I'm sure the military is more efficient than a freaking jail. The Marine Corps notes that he has not been charged with anything, but the general nature of offenses being considered at the hearing are this: Article 88, which is contempt toward officials; Article 90, willfully disobeying superior commissioned officer. I guess they just wanted him to shut up. Article 92, failure to obey lawful general orders. Article 133, conduct unbecoming an officer and a gentleman. Scheller first caught the nation's attention after he posted this short video of himself on Facebook criticizing the leadership on August 26th. That was the day that 11 Marines, 1 Navy corpsman, and 1 Army soldier were killed during the Biden administration's hastily planned non-combatant evacuation operation in Kabul. And so this guy spoke out. He just demanded some accountability. And again, I don't know what's fair and right when it comes to the military, but I do know they need to give them a time and a date. That's just insane to me. But I don't know. Maybe this is just, maybe it's not. It seems harsh to me. I've heard his parents interviewed. He's not able to call anyone. From what I understand, he's in solitary confinement. This seems unfair and unjust to me. And yet we have these military officials, one in Mark Milley, who literally spoke to China and admitted as much. Spoke to General Lee, basically saying that he would give him some type of warning if we were to attack. And then, I mean, this guy was questioned by Pelosi talking about Trump is crazy and so on, etc. But you don't hear any of that when it comes to Biden. Does Milley think Biden is crazy? We all know that Biden is, what do you call it? A French fry short of a Happy Meal. But yet he doesn't talk about that when it comes to Biden. It's astounding what's going on. So what we see is a breakdown of our major institutions. And I'll get into academia, and hopefully we'll have time for the church, because I read this column where some social justice warrior was just talking about basically white Christianity. I forget the name of the column. I have it in here somewhere. Hat tip to Forgotten Man. But anyway, we'll try to get into that. But if we have time for that, we'll talk about that and why the left loves black social justice warriors. particularly in the church. But all of these institutions have failed. COVID-19 exposed so many things, including academia, including, and I'm a Christian, but including the church, including people of faith, Jews and Christians alike. It's been astonishing. It's been astonishing to me. All right, so let's go. Actually, let's go ahead and take a call. Let's go to Josh in Oak Creek, Wisconsin. Josh, welcome to the Larry Elder Show. You've got the mic.
Did you say a French fry short of a Happy Meal?
Yeah, but that was a little. I should have said more. He's more like a. It's more than one French fry, Josh. But go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Carl, for taking my call. But my question is basically, what happened to unions? I mean, I just saw a study recently. I forgot who did the study, but it said that white workers that enlist in unions become less racially resentful. I mean, they're run by Democrats. There's no equal opportunity between I'm not sure that the workers are Democrats. I'm sure the leaders are more Democrats than the unions.
Sure.
But the teachers' unions are gone. The police, the Teamsters, I don't know what happened to the Teamsters, but the police unions, they're fine. But the government unions, even the Screen Actors Guild, like, what is going on to our workers?
Yeah,
I remember in the good old days.
I got to tell you, Josh, they do still exist. I mean, the LA Teachers Union in California is totally insane. These people are these unions, the ones that do exist, are a good portion of those that exist. I won't necessarily say that when you're talking about cops or what have you, but when it comes to education, these people are just left-wing radicals. None of this stuff bothers them. They've been brainwashed by academia. I mean, just consider some of the stuff that's being taught in academia. First off, I mean, yesterday you had McAuliffe, or the Virginia Governor McAuliffe, or running for governor in Virginia, McAuliffe, talk about how parents don't need to be involved. And thanks for the call, by the way, Josh. Well, parents don't have to be involved. You've got Newsom signing this bill that's allowing minors, 12 years old, to be able to hide abortions and sexual, transgender surgeries from their parents, still making their parents pay for it. It's insane what's going on. We are fighting a left that hates America, that hates our Judeo-Christian values, and it's simple. They're just they're eager to destroy America. They're eager to destroy America. Let's take one more call. Let's go to Ralph in this segment anyway. Let's go to Ralph in Long Beach. Ralph, welcome to the Larry Elder Show. You got the mic. Ralph, are you there? Okay. All right.
Hello?
Ralph, go ahead. Go ahead. We got about 50 seconds now.
Yeah, I wanted to... We're getting called all kinds of names all the time. I like to change the DOJ to DONJ, which means Department of No Justice. And the Dems, Democrats, evil and malicious. And anything else you can think of? I'm trying to think of something for FBI, too, but I haven't gotten any past fake.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of these institutions have been corrupted. Thank you so much for the call, Ralph. A lot of these institutions have been corrupted. You can read Julie Kelly's latest article on AM Greatness talking about the infiltration of the FBI in the January 6th Capitol protest, mostly peaceful protest. It's insane. Our institutions are in crisis mode. We'll be back.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
The message is very simple. Democrats broke it. They bought it. They have to fix it. Can the Republicans stay on message?
I hope so. It's going to require a lot of discipline, but we have to do that. I mean, we have offered numerous bipartisan outreaches to the Speaker and her team. We should have done this whole process through regular order, gone committee by committee, passed 12 separate appropriations bills. But the fact is, as I said before, the squad is driving the train, and everything is being sacrificed to the altar of the Bernie Sanders socialist spending spree. I mean, I think Pelosi, this is her last hurrah, and she wants to go out with a bang, and she wants to cement her legacy, and so she's going to try and jam through as much as possible. And I think there's a lot of Democrats right now who are, quite frankly, afraid of all of the energy coming from the far left. And let's hope that some Democrats in the Senate, particularly Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, stand their ground. But Republicans need to be disciplined. This is no time for us to be complicit in their games. We need to stand up for the American people, and particularly in light of all the other crises and manifest failures we're seeing from the Biden administration, whether it's the complete absence of security on the southern border. We have an out-of-control crisis on the southern border, whether it's the ongoing failures of U.S. foreign policy owing to our surrender in Afghanistan, and all of the lies, quite frankly, that the president told at the UN General Assembly yesterday. We need to be disciplined right now because the Democrats from the White House and certainly Democrats in Congress are simply not operating in a way that has the best interest of the American people in mind.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America. You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor.
We would have sandwiches with no meat.
My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO.
We'll all be able to say, free at last, free at last.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
We understand that a plane has crashed into...
The people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Biggest and most costly manhunt in U.S. history.
United States killed Osama bin Laden.
There are reports surfacing that Al-Qaeda has placed a $50,000 bounty on the heads of any U.S. Navy SEALs.
Nobody's going to survive that. There's nobody in that.
This is the single largest loss of life in Afghanistan in a single incident.
Most of them are U.S. Navy SEALs.
We discovered bullets in the bodies of the Navy SEALs. The military threw them away.
More likely than not, that supports a shootout on board.
Anybody out there, we have a fallen angel.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Late 971-7243, 888-971-7243. We're coming to you live from the ReliefFactor.com studio, and we are in crisis mode when it comes to all of our institutions, whether it's military, whether it's academia, whether it's religious institutions, the church. I happen to be a Christian, but I'm talking about Christians, Jews. We are in crisis mode, and these institutions have to be repaired. Now, I would like to say that it needs to start with the church. I got to tell you, I've been so disappointed in the church. I'm not so sure that's true anymore. I read a column talking about how this fight may need to start in academia. And I'm starting to believe that more and more. I didn't at first. But when you consider the leaders that we have right now running the show in our military, it's absolutely insane. When you look at what's happening in schools across the country, it's absolutely insane. When you look at congregants in churches agreeing with ideas of the racist organization and domestic terrorist organizations, Black Lives Matter and Antifa, there's a problem, folks. There's a problem. And then what really struck me was in the first hour of the program, speaking again with Jorge Bonilla, and we're already talking about the records that Biden has already broken, or the record that has been broken under his leadership, with over 1.6 million people entering our country, or being our Border Patrol agents being in contact with along our southern border in this country. It's insane. This is a nearly 100-year record. And then to hear that more people are coming, and then to hear that this Judge Emmett Sullivan issues this order for the Biden administration to stop applying Title 42 that Trump applied during his administration. Title 42 being, listen, you come into this country as an illegal alien and you're sick, you've got COVID, you've got measles, you've got mumps, you've got whatever it may be, you got to go. And you have to turn around, you have to go home immediately. This judge says, nah, never mind, bring them in. This is insane. And then, had to have forgotten, man, Central American nation warns 85,000 more Haitians crossing the country on a dangerous journey to the U.S. Nearly 30,000 Haitian migrants, this coming from Fox News, have already made their way over the U.S.-Mexico border in recent weeks. But Panama's foreign minister says far more are on their way, and she has seen, and she has been sounding the alarm for months. So when these people pretend like they're caught by surprise, oh, whoop-de-doo, they're not. They know exactly what they're doing. In an interview with Axios, the foreign minister, Erica Munez, said that since the beginning of 2021, more than 85,000 Haitians have crossed through Panama, and that she believes they all are heading to the U.S. She said, we've engaged with every single authority that we can think of, that we can come across, to say, please, let's pay attention to this. The Haitians have been coming from Colombia, traveling through the dangerous Darien Gap jungles into Panama before making their way northward through Central America and Mexico to the U.S. Munez said senior officials from South American countries, Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. met in August to address the issue. So this Biden administration playing dumb is just nonsense. She said she thought it was shocking that this had not happened sooner. Munez said she also met with members of Congress and DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas earlier this week. Fox News reached out to the Department of Homeland Security for comment, but of course there was no immediate response. Munez told Axios she wants to see additional meetings between the U.S. and other countries in which they can work out plans to better control the volume of people coming through their respective borders. She said Haiti needs to be involved as well, as in order to get to the root problem. It's insane. She says we all have a role to play in this issue, and the regional approach is the correct approach. She says it is impossible for Panama to solve it on its own. In addition, of course, they're a tiny country. They have no real power compared to the United States. In addition to the 85,000 people that have already made their way to Panama and beyond, Munez said another 30,000 are waiting in Colombia while Panama is unable to take them. She said when we receive them on the Panamanian side, they're malnourished, the children are in terrible condition, so even getting them up to a healthy state takes time. This is insane. Mayorkas told Fox News on Sunday that the vast majority of the migrants who had entered the country had been released into the U.S. at the time. He said as many as 12,000 had been released until their court date, with 3,000 in detention and 5,000 still awaiting the processing of their cases. But now more are coming, folks, and they're not going to do a doggone thing about it. They're not going to do a doggone thing about it. Our institutions are in shambles. We can't trust our military top brass, unfortunately. And I know that's not the case for every single one of them. I get that. But unfortunately, the top dogs, it doesn't look good. Academia is totally gone cray-cray. Texas teachers instructed to help students hide gender identity from parents in Texas. But I want to get back to the borders. I want to finish this up. Again, I want you to stop and think about it. We are not a nation of immigrants. We are a nation of citizens, damn it. I'm so tired of this. Don't fall for the way the left frames stuff. We always end up on defense. There's no other country that calls their citizens immigrants. We're a nation of immigrants. We're a nation of immigrants. Always trying to take us back as if America is still some institutionally or systemically racist country. These people have had it good. These people have had it good. They have it so good they have to make up stuff just to feel important. Have to make up lies like America is systemically racist. This is utter nonsense. America, just like all these other nations that I mentioned earlier, I don't care if it's China, Mexico, Canada, Switzerland, it doesn't matter. No one says they're a nation of immigrants. We're the only ones dumb enough to do it because we don't control our borders. Here's what sets us apart. Here's what sets us apart. America is a country made of borders, citizens, and traditions. Honestly, that doesn't set us apart. That's like every other country. We're made up of borders, citizens, and traditions, and the left is trying to destroy them all. But what does set America apart from the other countries around the globe is the fundamental belief in our motto that used to be worth something, e pluribus unum, out of many one. Out of many one. And the left is destroying that, allowing people to come into our country illegally where they don't have to assimilate. What the hell do you think is going to happen? Do you think these people are going to respect our laws? Do you think they're going to respect our customs? Do you think they're going to respect our traditions if they don't even have to assimilate? If they don't have to come through the front door, they will never appreciate this country. This is insane. I mean, this is insane. This is insane. We'll be back.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America. You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor.
We would have sandwiches with no meat.
My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO.
We'll all be able to say, free at last, free at last.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
We understand that a plane has crashed into...
The people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Biggest and most costly manhunt in U.S. history.
United States killed Osama bin Laden.
There are reports surfacing that Al-Qaeda has placed a $50,000 bounty on the heads of any U.S. Navy SEALs.
Nobody's going to survive that. There's nobody in that.
This is the single largest loss of life in Afghanistan in a single incident.
Most of them are U.S. Navy SEALs.
We discovered bullets in the bodies of the Navy SEALs. The military threw them away.
More likely than not, that supports a shootout on board.
Anybody out there? We have a fallen angel.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward. Well, Wright came in this morning. He wants to fight you.
No one expected this out of him.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery.
They're racist, racist, racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Guys, I mean, we are in such deep doo-doo right now. I can't even, I don't want to lie to you. I don't want to lie to you. I mean, we're going to have to be involved. We're going to have to be alert like never before. One thing you can no longer afford to do is to be silent. If you do nothing else, you can no longer afford to be silent. You don't have to be a jerk. You don't have to be a meanie. But you have to be willing to engage your neighbor. You have to be willing to engage your friend. You have to be willing to say, even if it's something, you know what, I disagree with that because A, B, and C. Oh, you know, I understand. I respect your point of view, but I just see it, you know, it may be as simple as that. But one thing you can no longer do is remain silent. That's exactly what the left wants. And for some of us, you never know. You never know who your words will impact. You can share columns. Every week, I admit, as a matter of fact, we need to get them on. I read Dennis Prager's columns just because they make me smarter. I mean, seriously. The guy's columns are thought-provoking. He wrote one this week. I forget the title of it, but basically, would you hide a, I'm paraphrasing, but would you hide a Jew? I sat there and I read the column and I'm like, would I? If Nazis took over America, would you hide a Jew? And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm pretty sure I would, you know, but I had to sit there and think, yeah. I'm like, I don't want to die. I don't want to end up in some type of crazy civil war inside of the United States, but I can't help it. I can't just sit still. It's just, it's not in me. I can't sit down and let the left just run over me and try to destroy this country when we know this is the best country God has ever given man. You notice all of these social justice warriors, they don't leave. They don't pack up. They just complain. But they don't leave. I mean, woo. Let me just take you here. And I gotta, I'll go back to the borders. I know I'm going back and forth, so forgive me here. I'm not going to get as far as I'd like to get because I wanted to touch on church. I just won't have enough time. So basically, we're here in military, academia, but this border issue, this is a huge deal. If you do not have borders, you do not have a country. And then look at our leadership. Again, when it comes to the mental states of Biden and Trump, you didn't hear General Mark Milley mention anything about Biden. And we all know he's off his rocker. But Trump, yeah, he's willing to have conversations with General Lee. He's willing to have conversations with Speaker Nancy Pelosi and entertain the thought that Trump could be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, even though he says, oh, well, I'm not qualified to make that assertion. What? I mean, that's someone that's just literally just like basically someone that's a coward that doesn't have that isn't standing up and just saying, no, yeah, I've been around the guy. He's not crazy. All right, Nancy, you may hate him, but he's not crazy. No, he's a little social justice warrior himself. And then you got Liz Cheney apologizing for the GOP, still trying to play this narrative. She's still got Trump derangement syndrome. Are you still really like Liz Cheney? But she's sitting there during the questioning and apologizing for a January 6th deal. This unbelievable. And then you have McKenzie again, General McKenzie contradicting Biden again. He contradicted Biden's claim that none of his military leaders advised against his timeline for a complete withdrawal from Afghanistan. McKenzie said, it's been my view. I recommended a level of 2,500 U.S. forces, a level that would have allowed us to hold Bagram and other airfields as well. And Biden didn't listen. And he said, once you go below that level and make a decision to go to zero, it is no longer feasible to hold Bagram, he said. Conditions are set for an Al-Qaeda and ISIS resurgence. Representative Elise Stefanik asked Milley, is the terrorist threat from Afghanistan greater today or lesser than it was on 9/11? And Milley said in as little as 6 months, either the Al-Qaeda or ISIS or Islamic State terrorists group could reconstitute there. Not this minute. It's not as great as it was on 9/11, but I think it's a real possibility in the not too distant future, 6, 12, 18, 24 months that this could recur. Guys, we are our institutions are failing us. We'll be back.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Yesterday, that not one Republican would support the budget that's coming over with a debt hike attached. They will not support a debt hike relief standing alone. Is that your position?
Absolutely. Democrats have the White House, the House, and the Senate. They don't want any of our involvement with all their radical spending, which we shouldn't be. And so if they want to raise the debt ceiling, they want to do it on their own. You know why? They've been very clear. They don't want to do the debt ceiling on their own because they know it's toxic. They say, well, we want you to be part of our what we're doing here. You know, their budget in this deal, the $3.5, which is really $5.5 trillion, will take our debt to $45 trillion. Now let's look at what's happening in families right now with inflation. It's hurting our poorest families. It's hurting our families on fixed income. And the Democrats are causing all this with their spending, and they don't want to be responsible for it. They are responsible for what's going on.
And so do you think you'll keep, for example, you've got to get Senator Murkowski reelected, and I hope you do. I think she's a good, solid vote on 99% of the stuff that we vote on. Will she and any other Republican think about bolting and voting for it? Because it will hurt them. It will really hurt them if they vote for any Democratic package. I don't think any of them are going to
vote for it. We have a clean continuing resolution that McConnell and Richard Shelby put together that will deal with that. We're not going to do the debt ceiling. That's the Democratic responsibility. We'll keep the government open. We will help with the Afghan refugees, and we'll also help with the disaster relief for Louisiana. So ours is clean, all right? But the Democrats don't want to do it. I don't know if we'll even get a vote on it. So the Democrats might shut down government. I don't think they will, but they could decide to shut down government.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
I also have a view that the withdrawal of those forces would lead inevitably to the collapse of the Afghan military forces and eventually the Afghan government.
Well, you were right, and it took 11 days for the Taliban to take over Afghanistan. Have you seen some of the images coming out of Afghanistan, by the way? They're real pleasant. Bodies being hung from overpasses, people being executed in the street, an Afghan soldier led out into the street and just shot dead. The Taliban walking around with these giant whips and they're hitting women over the backs. Here's Secretary Austin also contradicting Biden and exposing Joe Biden for the bald-faced lie, the bald-faced lie he told the American people.
It's a simple question, Secretary Austin. He said no senior military leader advised him to leave a small troop presence behind. Is that true or not? Did these officer and General Miller's recommendations get to the president personally?
Their input was received by the president and considered by the president for sure. In terms of what they specifically recommended, Senator, as they just said, they're not going to provide what they recommended in confidence.
What a crap storm. What a crap show. Senator Josh Hawley put it best. Thank goodness for people like Josh Hawley and Marsha Blackburn and Dan Sullivan. The Republicans were certainly on fire yesterday in holding these failed commanders to have some sort of at least a public accountability.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Larry Elder Show, the number to call in, and I'll be going to Jan next on the line, but number to call in, 888-971-7243, 888-971-7243. But we're in crisis mode. Before we left to the break, I was just telling you, going through 6 takeaways from the Austin Milley testimony, and it's just sick. Again, the mental state of Biden isn't mentioned, but he was questioned on Trump. You got Liz Cheney apologizing for 1-6. You have Biden being contradicted again by General McKenzie, who said, yeah, I absolutely recommended a level of 2,500 troops. And once you go below that, it's no longer feasible to hold Bagram. But Biden wanted his way. You have Milley admitting to Elise Stefanik, Representative Elise Stefanik, that, it's likely that there will be a terrorist threat from Afghanistan greater in maybe 6, 12, 18, 24, 36 months. It isn't as great of a threat as we had in 9/11 right now, but likely will be in the future. And then they all pass the buck to the State Department. They blame the State Department on the issue. This from Representative James Langvin, Democrat from Rhode Island, asked Austin why the U.S. did not rescue American citizens and applicants for or holders of special immigrant visas, mostly Afghans who assisted the U.S. in its 20-year fighting in Afghanistan. And then he says on the issue of why we didn't bring out civilians and SIVs sooner, again, the call on how to do that and when to do it is really a State Department call. He says their concerns were, or Austin said before mentioning Mohammed Ashraf Ghani, Ashraf Ghani. And then he says their concerns were rightfully that, number one, they were being cautioned by the Ghani administration. Speaking of, this is law, I'm quoting Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. Their concerns were rightfully that no, One, they were being cautioned by the Ghani administration that if they withdrew American citizens and SIV applicants at a pace that was too fast, it would cause a collapse of the government that we were trying to prevent. So they knew what was going on. And then later, Representative Mike Johnson, a Republican from Louisiana, asked this question. The blame for the disastrous withdrawal that everyone agrees was a disaster, who is to blame for that? The military leaders remained silent. They remained silent. And then Milley lastly said that he's apolitical. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Let me tell you something. America is an amazing place, and these people are destroying it. What sets us apart from the countries around the globe, again, is this fundamental belief in e pluribus unum, out of many one. We aren't homogeneous or homogenous, however you say it. In America, many of our neighbors, they look differently, they sound differently, they act differently. Perhaps they worship at a different church or worship a different God or perhaps no God at all. But we're united in our belief that all men are created equal and endowed by our Creator with inalienable rights, or at least we were until Obama, Biden, Black Lives Matter came around. But among these beliefs, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, we aren't just bound by the blood or the common traits that typically define a nation. Our politicians don't get to determine our destiny, and that's what the left is trying to do today. We're bound by ideals that are bigger than any government. Think about what makes traveling so exciting. You get to see a different place. You don't know, when you travel, this is what makes borders so important. Borders make countries unique. I mentioned this earlier. They make states unique. You don't travel to go see your home. You go travel to see something different. And when you have borders, it gives you that sense of uniqueness. It's amazing to me what's going on. Beyond belonging, borders provide us this sense of security. Think about this. When a child dies in the custody of one of our Border Patrol agents, it's a huge headline, or at least it was. Why? It's a big story because those stories aren't normative in the U.S. Those stories aren't normative within our border because all of the blessings of liberty Americans take for granted on a daily basis. In America, our soldiers listen to this. In America, our soldiers protect the freedoms of our citizens from dictators. That's what our soldiers do. But many soldiers around the world protect their dictators from their citizens. That's what sets us apart. That's what makes America's borders special. We need a national identity. Borders provide that, and all of the benefits that come along with that. This is important. Within the borders of the United States of America, we have a First Amendment. We're granted the freedom of religion, speech, press. All of that is under attack. Without borders, you don't have a country. We don't have a country. Now, it may be time to end government-run schooling. I didn't necessarily think that at first, but I think I'm there now. Let's take a call, though, before I get to this. I'll close out on this. Let's go to Jan in Cleveland, Ohio. Jan, welcome to the Larry Elder Show. You got the mic.
Hi, Comrade Carl. I'm calling from Stalingrad. Are you there?
I am. Go ahead, Jan.
Oh, okay. You know, have you noticed how the people in power are just loving solitary confinement lately with no date of a hearing? Now, that applied to our the January 6th rioters, and now they're doing the same thing to Lieutenant Schiller. They're going to show you better not speak out. You better not. They're just making examples of anyone who. I'm not saying that the rioters did the right thing, but that isn't the way.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you, Jan. They're trying to use this tactic to intimidate people, to intimidate not just the person that's sitting in jail, but those of us that are on the outside looking in. You got 20 seconds left, Jan. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, you talked about the Jews, how, that's what they're doing. The way the Jews were vilified by Hitler are the way the people who supported Trump are being treated by the likes of Clinton and Pelosi and the rest of the country. They think we're a bunch of ignorant.
Jan, Thanks for the call.
Evil
We're just running out of time, but I appreciate you being out there. Jan from Cleveland, Ohio. She makes a great point. We never thought we'd be there. Did you say a minute? Oh, Jan, I'm sorry. I wouldn't have cut you off. Oh, Pure Talk USA. Last month, an absolute landslide of you made the switch to Pure Talk. You were chained to overpriced unlimited plans from Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, then finally decided to make the switch because you know that Pure Talk saves the average family over $800 a year without having to sacrifice coverage. Friends, if you haven't yet made the switch to Pure Talk, this is the easiest decision you'll make today. You can keep your phone, keep your number, or get huge discounts on the latest iPhones and Androids. Get unlimited talk, text, and 6 gigs of data for just $30 a month. Or if you still want unlimited data, you can get that and still save a fortune. Experience why Pure Talk is the highest rated wireless company by Consumer Affairs, why they're the preferred wireless partner of AMAC. From your cell phone, dial pound 250 and say Larry Elder. And you'll save 50% off your first month. That's pound 250, say Larry Elder. Pure Talk is simply smarter wireless.
All right, I screwed that up.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Yesterday that not one Republican would support the budget that's coming over with a debt hike attached. They will not support a debt hike relief standing alone. Is that your position?
Absolutely. Democrats have the White House, the House, and the Senate. They don't want any of our involvement with all their radical spending, which we shouldn't be. And so if they want to raise the debt ceiling, they want to do it on their own. You know why? They've been very clear. They don't want to do the debt ceiling on their own because they know it's toxic. They say, well, we want you to be part of our what we're doing here. You know, their budget in this deal, the $3.5, which is really $5.5 trillion, will take our debt to $45 trillion. Now let's look at what's happening in families right now with inflation. It's hurting our poorest families. It's hurting our families on fixed income. And the Democrats are causing all this with their spending, and they don't want to be responsible for it. They are responsible for what's going on.
And so do you think you'll keep, for example, you've got to get Senator Murkowski reelected, and I hope you do. I think she's a good, solid vote on 99% of the stuff that we vote on. Will she and any other Republican think about bolting and voting for it? Because it will hurt them. It will really hurt them if they vote for any Democratic
package. I don't think any are going to vote for it. We have a clean continuing resolution that McConnell and Richard Shelby put together that will deal with it. We're not going to do the debt ceiling. That's the Democrats' responsibility. We'll keep the government open. We will help with the Afghan refugees, and we'll also help with the disaster relief for Louisiana. So ours is clean, all right? But the Democrats don't want to do it. I don't know if we'll even get a vote on it. So the Democrats might shut down government. I don't think they will, but they could decide to shut down government.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
You know, I've always had a level of compassion for people. I understand that not everybody can afford a private school, or not everyone can handle homeschooling, even though homeschooling has become much better over the years. There's groups that join together and, maybe do online classes, gather up where their kids can participate in, sports or different events and so on, et cetera. There's plenty of stuff to be done out there, but I'm shifting of the opinion. I'm shifting towards the opinion, or I'm getting closer and closer, inching towards it, that perhaps it's time to either radically change or maybe even get rid of government schools. Did you know that 1.5 million fewer students in K through 12 enrolled in school in the school year 2020 through 2021, with a total of K-12 enrollment of about 51 million students across the U.S. That's about 1.5 million students, 3%. The largest segment of leavers and no-shows were, believe it or not, kindergartners and pre-K and pre-Ks, whose enrollment dropped by 15% last year. And these figures are unprecedented. And obviously, COVID has something to do with them. But normally, we see a drop in some of these schools. But the largest decline has always been about 1%. Obviously, again, the main reason is due to COVID. But here's what we've learned. With the nation's report card from the NAEP, which reveals that just 37% of U.S. 12th grade students are proficient in reading. 37%. Pitiful 24% are proficient in math. Oh, man. So parents who can afford it are sending their kids to private schools, but there's got to be other options. I understand that the government schools have lost many students to charter schools, while traditional public schools were losing students. Independently run charter schools, listen to this, in 39 states saw an influx of nearly 250,000 new students. So parents are starting to pay attention. I really do believe that schooling is going to be either you have to pull your kids out or you have to homeschool. My wife and I did it. It is hard. It's not easy by any stretch of the imagination. We struggled financially. I'm not going to lie to you, but we got it done. Additionally, homeschooling has been booming. The Census Bureau reports that between 2012 and 2020, the number of homeschooling families remained steady at 3.3%. But by May 2020, it jumped to 5.4 in just 5 months. October 2020, that number jumped to 11.1. Our children and we as parents should be treated like customers in our schools. We are not. It is time to make a change. Perhaps I'll dive into this a little more tomorrow. I'm sorry, the border issue kind of took me off task, but I felt like it was important to deal with. We got to have closed borders, guys. We have to. No borders, no country. Until next time, don't grow weary doing good. God bless.